Hey everyone, Shado here, and I unfortunately can't have a scientific analysis episode this week. I'm doing something and it's getting kind of down to the wire, and I sort of need that time in order to work on what I'm going to have for Metacon this weekend. And of course, if you're watching this at any time other than exactly right on the first day, I'm talking about the Saturday and Sunday, end of August, beginning of September 2013. So, the Metacon panel that I will be at will be the Manic Expression Creative Chaos panel that is being held on Sunday, September 1st from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., an hour-long panel. I want to have some nice stuff to show then, and I unfortunately will have to forego the scientific analysis this week so I can concentrate a little bit more on that. Hope you can forgive me. Now, I do intend on having something, so that something is just going to be me sitting here talking about something. Now, that something I intend to talk about is something that involves the word something a lot. Actually, the new generation of games consoles. There's a lot of speculation going on, a lot of thinking this way or that way. Now, one thing that is being talked of a little bit, but isn't really being looked at too much, I don't think, is the idea that there will be a industry crash soon. Now, this is talked of so little, and when it's brought up by some people who really vehemently believe in it, it really comes off a lot like your general apocalyptic claims of the world's coming to an end. Believe me, there's no evidence for it, but believe me. And, of course, everyone just brushes it off like you're insane. But I've been doing a little bit of research on certain things, and I can give my 2 cents on exactly how things are. In how things are looking, and if there is a crash, what kind of crash we're looking at. See, the fact is, a lot of companies really aren't doing too well. I mean, Microsoft's games division, it made some money with the Xbox 360, but they still lost a whole crap load of money on the original Xbox. So their games division isn't really as profitable as many of their other divisions. Sony, similarly, they did very well with the PlayStation 1 and phenomenally with the PlayStation 2, but the PlayStation 3 lost pretty much all the profits they made in the PlayStation 2 era, and were just barely starting to get it back into profitability towards the end of its life, and now suddenly it's time for the PlayStation 4, which they're also starting off selling at a loss. Not as much of a loss as the original PlayStation 3, but still a loss. And that's a kind of a risky thing to do when their games division is doing as poorly as it's doing for as long as it's been doing poorly. So if things don't really work out, that can be really bad for them, because investors could pull out and all sorts of other stuff like that. Now, on the flip side, you have Nintendo, who... God damn it. I don't need a dog barking in the background for this. I really don't. It's already raining outside, and it's dusk-ish already because it's so cloudy. Now I got a dog barking. This is a great high-quality video right here, honestly. So, as I was saying, Nintendo has already sort of shown their hand. They've released their next-generation console, the Wii U. I obviously know about that. And, a lot of people have really just called it an abject failure right out of the gate. Kind of similarly to how they did the 3DS, with the fact that the 3DS wasn't selling until now. It's one of the fastest selling per month of any console in history. But Wii U is still generally, if you ask anyone on the street who frequents gaming websites and knows what a Wii U is, they'll probably tell you it's a failure and a joke. Now, the thing about that is the Wii U has sold better in its first year than the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 did. Now, the per quarter sales, the Wii U isn't doing as well, but overall sales, the Wii U is doing better. Still, it's being called a failure, and one could think, why is that? A lot of people will say, well, it's because people generally hate Nintendo and have something against Nintendo. That's a kind of a persecution complex thing, I think. I don't think that that is the reality of the majority of things. But one thing to note is in this upcoming generation, games are going to be more expensive to make than they already were this generation. And this generation, we already saw the atrophying of genres. Things started to become much more streamlined, much more straightforward, much more towards the mass appeal singularity of the first-person shooter. Everyone must make a first-person shooter. First-person shooters are the golden grail of gaming. Everyone must have first-person shooters. That is where the potential for a crash is really coming in my eyes. Because not only does everything have to become a first-person shooter all of a sudden, because those have the appeal, those are what people buy, but everything has to be Call of Duty. And the big popular one that wasn't Call of Duty was Battlefield, and now they're starting to merge even more as the generations go on, and they're having yearly releases of each and every one of them. So we're getting this oversaturation of first-person shooters. We've had this oversaturation of first-person shooters, but they're already so expensive that in this upcoming generation it's going to become even more expensive if they want to push the systems as far as they can actually go. And that's not just with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but with the Wii U as well, because with the 2 gigs of RAM on the Wii U as opposed to the 8 on the other systems, 7 usable in games on the PlayStation 4, 1 usable in games on the Wii U. Still, the Wii U has better compression and could actually pump out some really damn nice textures if things are optimized. And Tara, would you stop trying to eat my hand? I got a dog barking in the background, I got a cat eating my hand, I'm trying to talk about the PlayStation. Anyway, so, as I said, the games are becoming more and more expensive. We've already seen games that don't even... an example of how expensive games are getting and how ridiculous things are getting. You have the new Tomb Raider, which was very, very different than previous entries in the series, and it was specifically to make it accessible for everyone and give it mass appeal, and it had that tacked-on multiplayer aspect for the multiplayer shooting that every game needs to have if they want to be funded, and the huge advertising and all that. This thing, and it sold 3 million copies, and that's a failure. Because it didn't make back the money that was spent on producing it. A game that sold 3 million was a bomb. That's the problem that we're seeing with a lot of the big AAA games now. So when things can be that successful and still fail, people aren't going to want to invest in anything but the sure win. And the sure win right now, it looks to every producer as the first-person shooter. That's like Call of Duty. Everything has to be Call of Duty. Try and out Call of Duty, Call of Duty. And the Call of Duty franchise itself is getting... I don't think I have to tell anyone that that's stagnating a bit. And there's not too much of a stretch, I don't think, to say it could very well just no longer have buyers, because how many times can you sell someone the update to their multiplayer experience? Now, that's one of the things with multiplayer being so important in the games. If you're looking to upgrade to a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, and you want to get your Call of Duty for it, the one that was so damn expensive, it's not going to do you any good if you can't play with your friends. So all your friends will either have to get PlayStation 4s or Xbox Ones, or you're going to have to get the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 version, which they're still going to be making for a while. So at its start, not only because after the initial pre-orders sell out and all that stuff, which I think it's interesting that a lot of places I go, people are saying because the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 sold out on pre-orders means that they are going to absolutely wallop the Wii U's ass sales-wise right out of the gate. I think they're missing the point that the Wii U pre-orders sold out a hell of a lot faster than the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One pre-orders sold out. Possibly because the PlayStation 4 had more for sale, and well, I don't know about the Xbox One. But, yeah, if you want me to go Michael Pachter and pull things out of my ass, let's say that combined the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One will have more units sold than the Wii U, but they're not going to beat it individually in sales on that first year, because they're going to run into a lot of the same problems the Wii U had in the first year, because especially with the lack of backwards compatibility for things. It's a large investment to go and get a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, because you can't trade in your old system and keep your games and controllers that they're not going to work anymore. Sorry. It's okay, Tara. And shut up, dog. That's back talk right there. Now, damn it. I really should have had my drink there. Now, so you get your ridiculously expensive games at the start of a new generation that's going to have problems with people picking it up, mainly because the economy is still recovering and expensive-ass game machines are not the first things that people want to get when they could get stuff like food. So, there's a lot of people that seem to assume that the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are going to, well, if they outsell the Wii U individually, each of them, then they're going to become the second and third fastest-selling game machines ever, right after the original Wii. This is the kind of thing people are just assuming is going to happen. They're certainly going to be the fastest selling ever. Why wouldn't they? Because that is a huge thing to just figure is just gonna happen. Nintendo assumed that a lot of people were going to just upgrade for the fuck of it, and they didn't, because this Wii U didn't have enough games to warrant the upgrade. And PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, games are coming later, but for now, a lot of games that are coming out for them that are going to look better on them still will be coming to the previous generation, so to have that experience is not going to be that requiring this huge investment. Now, so you got people not likely to invest in a new generation right away, a lot of money being invested into producing games for this new generation, and the amount of money being poured into it looks like it's going to require the producers are going to force the developers into this corner where you have to make a Call of Duty to beat Call of Duty, which in turn will turn things to be very similar across the board, which will make people feel no incentive to go out and buy the same experience for $60 more. And that's really where the potential for a crash might happen. Now, this crash, in my opinion, would not crash the entire industry, it would crash the FPS industry. The problem is, the FPS industry does hold a lot of weight across a lot of companies, and a lot of companies would be hurt pretty bad by an FPS crash. But a similar crash we have seen within the last 5 years. If you remember the plastic guitar genre, Guitar Hero and Rock Band, Guitar Hero coming out in 2005, I believe it was, for PlayStation 2, and doing marginally well, and Guitar Hero 2 coming out for PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360, and doing considerably better, and then just this huge oversaturation of Guitar Hero games came out, with Harmonix doing Rock Band on the side, which kind of became the end of them. And Tara, stop biting my hand. What is with you and biting at my hand? It's my hand. It's not your food. It's my hand. Yeah, it's my hand. That's not your food. That's my hand, not your food. What you doing? What you doing? But if you look on VG charts on the sales numbers, the sales just went up and up and up, and then you saw this explosion of all these side games. Guitar Hero Aerosmith, Guitar Hero Rock the 80s, Guitar Hero this, that, all this other crap. Rock Band, they had less games, but a hell of a lot more DLC as far as I could tell. And an interesting thing happened. Once you hit 2009, sales started to wane. And 2010, they just plummeted. After that, you saw nothing. The plastic guitar genre has not been even brought up in the new generation of game consoles. No one seems to be too enthused to bring it back. It was there, it was successful, and it was milked to death. And all the experiences ended up merging together. Rock Band and Guitar Hero became the same game, one with circles, one with lines. Because you could play drums and all the other crap on both of them. And it just became... And people still play it. But they had no reason to go out and buy another one. That's the thing. When you have all these first-person shooters made for online multiplayer that you're supposed to invest time into and get your prestige levels and such, then you're saying, okay, buy the same experience in its next yearly release and start your prestige over on top of it. And we'll charge you $15 to play those maps that you could have been playing on the old one if you wanted to still play the old one, but you're playing the new one now and they're not in there until we add them later for $15 for the pack. And it's, you see this, and if this is the only kind of game that people are going to feel you can make for a super AAA budget in next generation, how many people are going to keep buying it before the FPS genre just collapses under its own weight? It's not economically feasible right now to go out and buy a new system for all these things, and a lot of people, like EA with their support of it just completely dropping support for the Wii U when it didn't sell super phenomenally, only the second best-selling system right after the Wii, just not as well as they thought it would. Just drop support for that because, fuck it. Somehow the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in this economy are still going to do phenomenally better. It's a strange idea. And I just don't see all this money being put forth to make FPSs ending well for FPSs. And that could be bad overall, not just because, studios will close down, people will liquidate assets to keep their stuff afloat after losing a whole shit ton on investments in first-person shooter games. But I don't mind the first-person shooter genre. It's just the constant modern military shooters that get tiring, in my opinion. I would love a game. It's like, I'm thinking a newer game that plays kind of like the original Doom. And I'm thinking, you almost kind of have that with Serious Sam 3. And Serious Sam 3 is a real fun game. If you're tired of modern shooters, you can give that one a whirl. It's usually pretty cheap to find on Steam. But yeah, that's the kind of first-person shooter I personally would go for. Silly, over-the-top, and just fun. Not this, we have to be gritty, we have to be realistic, we have to spend a few $1 million putting this together so that we can get everyone to buy our yearly version and wonder how long it'll take them to realize they're buying the same game over and over again. So, I don't know if I could pull a Michael Pachter and pull a prediction of when the crash will come out of my ass. But, according to him, the 3DS was an absolute failure. Until, later when it obviously wasn't and he was trying to run damage control on those figures he pulled out of his ass. It's like I say, a broken clock is right twice a day. I don't know why anyone listens to that, man. It's like my old phone. Its compass was completely fucked. It never worked right. Occasionally it pointed in the right direction, but I knew damn right well that wasn't because it was working, it's just because coincidentally it happened to be pointing in the right direction. It was still broken. You could still be right sometimes when you have no reason to be so. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope it wasn't too boring for you, as my cat fell asleep. That's not a good sign.